My name is Sheila Irwin, and I'm the president of Raising Dreamers Ministries. And I wanted to share my story with you. I was raised in a Christian home. My mother took me to church regularly, and I had to sit with her in the choir until I was 3 years old because they didn't have children's church. After you're out of the nursery, you had to sit with your parents. And my dad didn't come to church, and so I sat with mother in the choir until I crawled up under her dress one Sunday morning, and she couldn't sit back down. After that, I had to sit on the front row, and I listened very intently to what was being said. We were having revival one spring morning, and um, I was about 6 years old. And as I sat there, I understood the gospel for the first time. Really understood it, even though I'd heard it many, many times. But I understood that I was a sinner. And then because I was a sinner, I was separated from God. And I loved God. I loved Jesus. And I didn't want to be separated from him because of my sin. And I understood that he paid the sin payment for me. And that if I would trust him, and that he would come into my life and he would forgive me of my sins, and I would be a new person from then on. Well, I tried to get my mother's attention up in the choir. I wanted to go down and pray with our pastor that morning, but she kept telling me to be quiet and raising her eyebrows and saying, "You need to be quiet and sit still." So I did. I sat there until after church was over. And as we walked out of the church, I began to sob and cry. And she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Oh, Mommy, I wanted to accept Jesus Christ as my very own this morning." And she felt really bad. So she took me to the pastor's office. There was no child evangelism fellowship in those days, and so she was a little scared that a 6-year-old could understand the gospel that maybe I wouldn't understand. So she took me to the pastor's office that morning, and we sat there for about an hour and talked. He went back over salvation with me, and he was very wise that day. He said to me, "Sheila, I want you to go home. I want you to think about this. And I want you to pray about it. And then if this is still what you want to do tonight, you come down and I will pray with you, and you can accept Jesus Christ as your own." So that's what I did. I went home, I prayed about it. I couldn't wait for the service to be over, although I was a little nervous. Nobody else walked the aisle that day. I walked down and I gave my life to Jesus Christ. And at that point, I became his child. You can do that too, right now. You can say, "Jesus, I know I'm a sinner. I know that you paid for my sin, and I want to accept your sin payment as my very own, and I want to be your child." And at that point, you become his, and he will continue the process of growing you into the Christian that you become.